Hey, I'm doing two medicines this morning. Now, I had mentioned about a lady who on a cruise ship, and I'm going over my mentor Robert Murphy's tapes again, and he talked about there was seasickness. Tobacco is good for seasickness, which is tobacco homeopathically prepared. And she didn't have it with her, and a bunch of people got sick. So she took a cigarette, crushed it up, put it into a bottle of water, pounded it 100 times, dumped it out, did it again, poured more water in, dumped, because all you need is one little drop still in that bottle for it to have the effectiveness of the medicine. Pounded it again, 100 times, poured that. I did it like 4 times. Once she did that, sorry, once she did that, she gave it to the people. I mean, you just take a little bit out of here and you can put it into more bottles of water and give it out, you know. And she did that, and the seasickness went away. So I was on a call with the lady, agro homeopathy, and what that is for plants and that. I put a post in there. She showed, I think it was arnica after they cut a limb off a tree, and before and then after. I don't know from doing arnica. Anyways, um, she was talking about if you got bugs in your uh, like snails, we'll say snails eating your plants. You don't have to. You can throw salt around, but you don't even have to do that. You can take nat myrrh, which is salt, homeopathically prepared. Prepare it like that. Put it on in a spray bottle and spray your plants, and the snails won't come near it. I thought that was interesting. So I got a lantern fly in this bottle of water, right? Boy, them guys hold a lot of crap, I'll tell you. You can just see, the stuff they spit out on them trees, man. Usually when I, do something, there's no foam in there. So, anyways, I pounded it 100 times. What I'll do is I'll pour it out. I'll leave it, there'll be a drop or so in there, and I'll do it again, and then pour that out, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it like 4 or 5 times, and that'll give me like I want to say, it's hard to say. I've only had this much water. Usually it's 100 drops. But anyways, that'll give me like a 4C, we'll say, 5C. So then I take that and pour it into a bigger jug of water, a spray bottle, not a, I got a spray bottle. Anyways, and I'll do that, and I'll pound that and about 100 times, and then I'll go out and I'm going to spray around one tree and see if these things don't come back to that tree. And if that works, I'm going to do it everywhere. And I'd love to. I'm going to let that lady know how it works. She wants to know the Camellia is her name from New Zealand, I think. Agro homeopathy. So, anyways, I'm going to do that, and I'll put that there. And I would, if that works, and I notice they don't come, I'm going to take pictures before, I'll spray it on, and I'll come back day later and take pictures and see if that takes care of it. If that does, then I may go to Penn State and tell them, hey, this really worked. You might want to try it. So today I got two medicines. One is Barosma, Barosma, crenulatum, Baryta Acetica, and I'm doing Baryta Acetica. It's a very small one. This one's barely proved. No, this one isn't proved. This one's barely proved. And Baryta Carbonica will be Monday, and that's a large medicine like yesterday. What was yesterday's? I forget. Uh, it was Baptisia. Yeah, Baptisia. Great for flus, any kind of influenza coming around. Epidemic influenzas, I would give that as a prophylactic. That's another one that I was on a call with the lady, and she talks about prophylactic, using homeopathic medicines to, like I was saying, they got measles down in Texas. That's where I knew it was first. I think it's elsewhere, but it was really bad there. I got what's that one called? It's measles. Anyways, I can't think of the name of it now. I just had it. I have. Anyways, I got the measles nosode, which is prepared from the actual measles disease. Take that down, give that as a prophylactic, in other words, like a vaccine for the measles. Give that to the people that are around that area that don't have measles, and see what happens. Because Hahnemann realized he was giving a lady, a young girl, belladonna for something else, and what came by? Scarlet fever came by, and she didn't get scarlet fever, even though everyone in her family got it. She didn't, and he realized that that belladonna, her taking that, protected her from that. So, before I get into that, um, the repertory. Why do I have the? Let's do this. Yeah. Well, anyways, the repertory. And that is, I put that word up here, repertory, and within the repertory, these are the categories. Now, this is what you would look in first once you talk to someone and you get their symptoms and you're wondering, okay, what do I do? You would go under these categories, whether it's the abdomen, ankles, arms, back, bladder, blood, bones, brain, breast, breathing. We got a breathing section you'd look under, chest, children, chills, coughing. There's a coughing section. There's a chill section. Delusions. There's a fever section too. Delusions, dreams, ears, elbows, emergencies, environment. So even they got dreams in there, environment. So all these things can become, there's many more. There's a lot more. There's perspiration, nerves, neck, toxicity. What else is there? Larynx, limbs, liver, lungs. So all those things are in there that you would look under to basically, you got someone that has a knee problem. There's a knee section you would go under. You got someone that has anemia. You'd go under the blood section. So that's how the repertory works. Once you go under there, then you get a bunch of medicines like Barosma, crenulatum, Baryta Acetica. You get these kind of medicines under one of these categories from the repertory, and that comes from what you got off that person. Just like influenza, I might go under. Where is it? It could be chills. It could be fevers. For the flu, it could be um, chest, coughing, that kind of stuff with influenza. You go under them sections, you'll get some remedies like what I did yesterday, which was Baptisia tinctura would be one of the remedies. So now you got 20 remedies. You got to go to a sub rubric, which is chills. Let's say chills, worse, open uh, fresh air, worse fresh air, we'll say, or worse uncovering. That's a big one. So I go under the chill section, worse uncovering, right? Then once I should lessen the remedies that way. So in other words, I start with chills and I got a ton of remedies. Now I go to a sub rubric like worse uncovering. That brings me down to less remedies. Now, if I could even get a rubric that's even smaller, like worse uncovering. What else would be under there? Anyways, I, I didn't plan all this, but I just this morning I said, hey, why don't I tell them what this is all about? So then once I get these remedies, now when I got Materia Medica up in the corner. That's what's under the Materia Medica. They start with the medical, the modalities. Modalities are what it's better by, what it's worse by, like the uncovering, causation, what caused it, what brings that on, cold weather, damp weather, something. Mind, what's their mind like? What's their abdomen like? Back, chest. So you're taking all these symptoms from a person and you're matching them to what the medicine is good for. Now, why do we know what the medicine's good for? By doing the same thing. Created a medicine, and I could create a medicine out of that bug, create a medicine. And then once we created a medicine, we gave it to people, and it's called approving. Not we, they gave it to people. And, that's once they gave it to them, they would report back any symptoms they got. So they would take it for a month or so and they would get sick. They would get all these different symptoms and then they would write them all down and turn them in or report them back or whatever. And once they did that, then they got all the symptoms that were there. Some symptoms were major across every person, whether female, male, whatever, old, young. Some symptoms, and that would be bold symptoms. They would be symptoms that were always there. Some symptoms wouldn't be quite, it'd be certain people would have these symptoms, and then others there'd be one or two symptoms that were there, but not really major. So that's why sometimes it seems like when I read this stuff, they're contradicting, they they are thirsty, but then they're thirstless, or they're hungry, but then they have a ravenous appetite. So some people, it'll react differently. That's why homeopathic medicine goes on individuality, not, I got a headache, here's an aspirin, or here's an ibuprofen, or I know they give the opioids for those headaches, but it's not the same. What it is when someone has a headache like that, you'd go under the head section. Do I have head here? No, I didn't get the H yet, but I'd go, and it's all alphabetical. I'd go under the head section, and then I'd try to figure out, is this from the gastric stuff, from the stomach, from stress? So headache, I'd have a ton of remedies. If I just looked under headache. Now there's a lot of what do you call them? There's a lot of sub rubrics. And FGH, headache. Where's the headache? Constriction. See, under head, they'll have congestion, constriction. Where's the headache part? GH, cutting pain, cramping pain, drawing pain, dandruff on the head, falling out of the hair. So they got all these things. Now, if I get the headaches, I got, geez, oh man, there's a ton of remedies. That's all headache till you get down to here. So, and then it says afternoon, you get less. The belladonna, selenium is two big ones in the afternoon. So that cuts it down to from a ton of remedies to two when it's in the afternoon. Now there's periodicity, or periods, when it comes 1 to 3, worst 1 to 3, you got some medicines. 2, it comes on. 3, it comes on is belladonna. 4, it comes on is still belladonna. 4 p.m. to 3 a.m. is belladonna. 4 to 8 p.m. is lycopodium. Whether it's a headache, a body ache, rheumatism, whatever it is, lycopodium is always a keynote, is 4 to 8 p.m. So that's kind of how that works. That's the Materia Medica. And the smaller you can get the rubrics. I have a headache. Oh, what's it feel like? And that's all I did with my wife. What's it feel like? She said, I took 10 Tylenol PM. I'm like, you'll blow up your liver, man. What the heck? So I said, what's it feel like? And I just got home from work. I was doing marble. I'm nasty, smelly, tired. And I said, is it stabbing, stinging, pounding, throbbing, burning, sticking, I just threw out a bunch of words. And she thought for a second and said, burning. Ran up, got arsenicum, which is a keynote of arsenicum, burning. Went on, gave it to her, I think in a bottle, I don't know, I gave it to her anyways. Went up, I don't even think I did a bottle of water at that time. I just gave her a dose of it, put it away, went in, took a shower, came down, and she was talking on the phone like nothing happened. So that's how quick it can be when you got a keynote in there. Otherwise, I'd be looking up this, a headache, it's, where is it? What, is it in the front and the back and the thing, and so that's where the Materia Medica comes in. Then now, once you find out some symptoms of a person, what's going on, their mind, what their mind's like, their abdomen, their back, all these different symptoms will lead you to a medicine, because the medicine's been proven. And we know with Barosma crenulatum, the mind, they're very forgetful. They waver long between opposite decisions, so they're undecided all the time. Lack of self-confidence. That's probably why they're undecided. They don't want to, they're people pleasers. They don't have the self-confidence that they're worthy. Lumbago in the back. Feeling of cobweb in the face. So they feel like there's always something on the face. And one says feeling like dried egg on face. It's another medicine that says that. But crawling with burning stitches with paralysis in the limbs. Oh no, this is Baryta Acetica. Sorry. I'll do the other one later. Drawing pain down whole left leg, rheumatic pain in muscles and joints, crawling with burning stitches and paralysis. So that is Baryta Acetica. Sorry about that. So with Baryta Acetica, this would be the mind, the back, but now this could be proven more. They probably didn't prove it very much. And, this is why they only have a limited amount of symptoms. The other one, Baryta, Barosma crenulatum, that one hasn't been proven. So I'll continue with Baryta Acetica, being I messed that up. Herring and Hahnemann combined the two. Now, Baryta is barium, and barium they use, when you take an X-ray, they take you to have you drink it to make the X-ray come out. It's used in other kind of things, in paints, I don't know, different things. It's applications, and it is a metal. They took the two, Baryta Acetica and Baryta Carbonate, which is the one I'm going to, Carbonica is the one I'm going to do Monday. And that's the big one. That's where they really did a lot of proving on it. But Acetica, they didn't prove it as much. So they took the two. Herring said there is hardly any difference between the two, and that might be why they didn't prove it out more. Certainly none in the symptoms cured. Okay, so sorry, I'm not supposed to say cured, I guess, but I'm just reading. Produces paralysis beginning in the limbs, like it says, self-confidence, feeling of cobwebs, and all that stuff. So that is Baryta Acetica, which is similar to the one I'm going to do Monday, Baryta Carbonica, which is that's been really proven. They've done a proving on that, and they've got a ton of symptoms for it. So that might be why they started to do Baryta Acetica, Hahnemann and Herring. Hahnemann, of course, the founder of it. Herring, a big proponent of a wonderful doctor, homeopathic doctor. So he's got a lot of literature he wrote, all kinds of stuff, but they found that there's no difference between Baryta Carbonica and Baryta Acetica. So they probably stopped proving it once they realized, hey, there's not much more here. But let's see, the paralysis. Let's go to limbs with Baryta Carbonica. Limbs. Pain and axillary pain in deltoids, limbs, numbness, trembling of feet, knees. So there's no paralysis. So if you were using Baryta Carb for something, which is the main one you'd undoubtedly go for, I know I got that. I don't think I have Baryta Acetica in my kits, but Baryta Carbonica, if you were using that and it wasn't working, but you had some paralysis with rheumatic pains in the muscles and that, you'd consider going to Baryta Acetica. All right, so Baryta or Barosma crenulatum. The leaves, this is from Africa. This is a plant from Africa. The leaves of several species and it hasn't been proven. They haven't proven it's just used herbally. Of Barosma contain in vitae volatile oil. This is what that is. It has an oil just like camphor in that, having a warm camphor-like taste and an odor something like a mint. So they're using it as teas and stuff. And it's called buchu, Buchu. Has a markedly specific effect on mucous membranes and especially on the genitourinary system. So the mucous membranes and the urine system, it has great effects on. Now, that's herbally. What else would we get if we did a actual proving on it? But it basically, when we think of mucus too, we think of mucus just in the nose and stuff, but it can be mucus of your bladders, of your kidneys, there can be mucus everywhere. And that's why sometimes when they have a stool, you'll have mucus in it, or urinate. I think a medicine or two ago there was mucus in the urine. So that's why I say there's not mucus just in the nose. So it affects the mucous membranes and the genitourinary system, closely resembling that of what is that one? I just looked at it. I'm not going to look at it. Well, how much time do I have? 18. I'm not going to look it up. But Sabo, Populus, Capiava, and Thuja, they all have the urinary tract stuff. So if you were to go and look that in the repertory under probably urinary tract, what would be that? Kidney. Probably look under kidney. Yeah, let me see. What do we got here? We got urinary stuff. Then you go to the back. They got a whole. Robin's got a whole, thing you can look up what you're looking for. Uremia, uremic, ureters, urethra, urethritis, urging to urinate, uric acid, urination general. So I'd probably go to urination general or urine. I could actually go to kidneys. But anyways, the urinary tract, I'd be looking that up to see what's going on with this person or what the deal is. And they all have the same thing in there, So once I would look up the urinary tract or I'm trying to say, I didn't put nothing down there. Anyways, I'd look it up to see what's going on here. Is the kidneys? I look up the kidneys, Uh, anyways, when I look that up, I'd get some medicines. When I get some medicines, then I get the symptoms, just like here, the kidneys, the male, the lungs, the nose, the rectum, all that kind of stuff. I would get the symptoms that I got from the person, and I would match those symptoms to the symptoms of the medicine. And that's why I would have Sabal, Populus, Cabiava, and Thuja. Thuja, I know that remedy. Those other three, Sabal, man, I can't think of the rest of the word. But anyway, Sabal, I know I've gone through that. That's a pretty big one. Let's see what it is. Sabal B. Sabal cerulata, which is saw pimento. That's why I knew it. Sabal cerulata is saw pimento. So that, it's good for the guy's prostate and stuff. So that's why it'd be in there with Barosma, crenulatum, and Populus. That's another plant, Cabiava, and Thuja. So all these have the genital urinary tract symptoms. So once you get the symptoms from the person, and you look through the repertory and get a batch of medicines, you'd probably come up with these ones. Barosma, crenulatum, what did I say that was? Anyways, it's saw pimento, populus, cabiaba, and thuja. You'd come up with those 4 remedies. Now you have to take the symptoms that you're receiving from the person when you ask the questions. Of course, you got to know how to ask the questions. And see, in my group community, when I get people in there, I can sit down. I'm not just going to teach them medicine. I can sit down and show you how to utilize these tools for your family. And of course, you can learn the medicines. This is why I go over these medicines, because now they're in my community and people can go and, hey, you know what, I'm thinking about this medicine. Go listen to it and then see what, does it match that person. And even in my community, I can help people to come to understand how to ask questions, number one, how to observe what's going on with the person, and then how to use the repertory to find out, what kind of medicines will be good for it, and then to go to the Materia Medica and know what medicine, be able to look it up and say, oh yeah, that medicine matches real well. So you'd be looking through these 5 remedies to see which one was the one that would be, best matching that person, because like cures like is the big thing in everything. That's why when you burn yourself, we think put ice on it or cold water. No, you put your hand back in that heat, right? And the burn, you'll get a big stinging at first, but the burn, once you pull it out, the burning goes away. Someone's frozen, frostbite, you put it in snow, you put it in ice, and bring the temperature down bring the temperature back slowly, and that takes away all that stinging and numbing pain. And it'll, if you put it into if you put your cold feet into cold water, the body, wait a minute, how does it go? If you put your hand in the cold, the body will think the hand's cold, and it'll, produce the symptoms for the cold. So it works opposite. Like cures like. Whatever happens to you, you want the same thing to happen. So that's why with the bugs, you take that bug and you make a medicine out of it. Then you give it, you spray it on the plants, and the bugs will be like, oh, I'm staying away from this, Or like with you don't even need salt for snails, because you use nat myrrh, which is salt, and that they have this sense they're salt, and they just don't come around and eat your plants. Very interesting stuff, I tell you. But when I get people in the community, I can train them and I can make this time shorter. It's been 30 years I've been, studying this and doing this, and I never quit studying. There's so much to this that you can go deeper and deeper. But to just utilize it, I can cut the time down, and I can make it so that you can learn how to utilize this stuff for your family. And especially with, insurance is going up and hospitals may be closing. I don't know what all is going to happen there, but you should take control of your arm yourself against the next disease, the next pandemic, the next injury, the next whatever's coming down. All right, so there are no provings of the remedy, and the only use made of it has been with the tincture. Buchu, which is the African name for the plant, has mucopurulent discharges. That's a 3. So the mucopurulent discharges coming out of the nose or the mouth, the chest, the lungs, irritable bladder with catarrh or gravel. And that's why I say, you don't have just catarrh or mucus in your nose, sinuses, and things like that, but you have it here. They're saying it's in the bladder with catarrh or gravel coming out. So there's mucus coming out, which is catarrh, or they have gravel coming out. So this is great for an irritable bladder with spasmodic stricture. So stricture is, trying to urinate and it closes on you. The urethra closes on you. Prostatic disorders, that's why the saw pimento would be considered with this, Barosma, crenulatum, and vaginal leucorrhea. Now, it doesn't say a color. A lot of these medicines will say there's a yellow leucorrhea, or it's burning and acrid, or different things. This one isn't proven, so it's basically just any leucorrhea. They've been given it, and this is folklore. They've been giving it to people as a tea, maybe as a tincture for years to take care of these situations. Now, if we prove it, we'll get a lot more stuff from it. Seminal or prostate vesicles produced. So they've got, I don't know why there'd be vesicles. Vesicles are lesions, basically. So produced on by excessive sex or masturbation. So now, if you did a mind thing on this person, they might be, or you were down in the mail, it'd say great excitement and sexual desire increased, and then it would bring this up, some excessive seminal or prostate vesicles. So those are sores, basically, from too much sex, from in your semen tube, I would imagine, and on your prostate from overdoing it. But if you proved it out, you'd have more symptoms, and it would be what's going on in the mind, what's going on the male, do they some other things going on, and then if you used it homeopathically, that could help to overcome that obsession, of that overexcitement. A lot of times, we think, oh, this is normal, this is natural. Oh, a guy's virile. Well, a lot of that can be a sickness, you know. And then once you go down that rabbit trap, it could be, it could turn into some bad situations for you. So, anyways, the Materia Medica, which is this that I do every day, but you always start with the repertory. Actually, you start with talking to the person, observing what's going on, asking them the right questions, getting at some symptoms, and then you go to the repertory with your symptoms, whether it's breathing symptoms or they got breast symptoms or brain symptoms, bones are aching, whatever it is. You go into that category, and it'll give you some medicines. Just like today, I had along with where is that? The other one, right? No, this one, Barosma, crenulatum. I had Sabao, which is Salpimento, Populus, Capiaba, and Thuja would be under undoubtedly the prostate stuff and the genitourinary tract stuff. So that would be all those 4 medicines I would get from the repertory, and then I have to look at all the symptoms in the Materia Medica. The repertory first ask them, get the symptoms, then go to the repertory, find what you're looking for. That'll give you medicines to basically go to the Materia Medica and match symptoms. That's all you're doing, and it can be quite simple. It can be elusive too, like my wife's foot. It isn't because the medicines are bad or because the information's bad. It's because I'm thinking, okay, she had her Achilles tendon cut. Is that Did that let go, and is that why she's got that bump on the bottom of her foot? Is it because of her diet? Is that a gout thing, like too much acid in her diet, which I know she has? There's so many things that you can go down. You really have to learn how to discern that stuff, and some things will elude you. Some things are easy, you know, just like any medicine. The doctors, she went to the doctors, they said, hey, they go to look at this bump on the bottom of this girl's foot. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. So it's up to me. I have to try to figure out what's up with her foot, and if I can fix it. I know I can, but it's just a matter of my perception of what's going on with her. So, all right, that's morning medicine. We'll see you Monday. You can age, but you don't have to get old.